Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be recapping all of the Week 1 NFL games and giving my takeaways from every single team. That's 32 takeaways. So let's get right into this video. This is going to be a video packed with information, but NFL season's back. I'm so hyped for it, and I'm going to be making a lot of content. Hell, I even joined the radio station, so I'm going to have a podcast for my school. So that's really good. But let's get right into this video. So I don't really have that many takeaways for the Buffalo Bills. I already made a video on this game earlier, but the Buffalo Bills are looking like a top 5 potential defense with their new pass rusher Von Miller, and a top 5 offense with just such a great air attack. And plus, they have some pretty decent running backs. With Singletary looked a lot better, Zach Moss, and James Cook. But the biggest takeaways of this game were that the Rams are looking kind of scary for me, because their defensive line did not perform as good as the Rams wanted to, and Jalen Ramsey allowed 2 touchdowns, at that one to Stephon Diggs. Their offense was looking extremely shaky, so that's my takeaway for the Rams. My biggest takeaway for the Ravens is that the Ravens' passing offense looked good. Their defense also looked very good, but the rushing game was not there, and for the Ravens, if the rushing game is there, they could definitely be a top 3 seed. But if the rushing offense isn't there, I mean, this is the Jets we're talking about. The Jets were the worst or the second worst against the run last year per yards per carry. And if they struggled against the Jets defense, what are they going to do against the Browns defense? But I did like how the Ravens played. Here is that 50-yard bomb to Rashad Bateman. You're not going to face the Jets every game. You're not going to. It looked very easy for them, but I still think that the Ravens are a playoff team, and they're right now still the best in the AFC North. For the Jets did not look great at all. The Jets offense is stagnant under Joe Flacco. You hope that the Zach Wilson return helps this offense become more dynamic and downfield, but this offense looked extremely shaky, and there were some. I have some questions about the coaching as well. I don't think that that Robert Saleh's scheme is right now working. I know it started to work better later in the season last year, but this Jets offense just cannot score early in game. It couldn't do it last year, and they still cannot do it. So hopefully Zach Wilson return makes this team better, but this is a bottom 3 team in the NFL right now. I think that the Saints played very well this game, and even though they were down a lot of this game, actually the Falcons played pretty decent. The Falcons are, I think, one of those teams that just is known. I mean, everybody knows they choke a lot, but it's for me, from what I saw, it was Arthur Smith. I actually don't think this has been the 3rd or 4th time that the Falcons have lost a double-digit lead under him. I know they did that quite a bit under Kyle Shanahan. But the offense looked better than I thought. Even without Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts didn't have that much, or as many targets as you'd want him to. But the Saints were the big takeaway from this game. Michael Thomas scored 2 touchdowns against AJ Terrell, who I have as my number 3 cornerback ranked. So Saints are looking like a playoff team, but maybe not a 11 to 12 win team, probably around that 9 to 10 range. The Browns didn't play very well through the air, but their rushing game is insane. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are the best, by far, 1-2 duo in the league. But this offense is likely going to, or this team is likely going to go under 500 as soon as their schedule starts to ramp up. They had the Panthers, and now they have the Jets next week. Yeah, they could start off 2-0. But Jacoby Brissett has a capped ceiling. He's not Deshaun Watson. And I think they definitely got bailed in this game twice, especially with that pass interference call. And then they had that 58-yard field goal, which usually doesn't go in. Now, the Panthers played better than a lot of people suspected that they would play. People thought that the Browns might run them out of the building. But Baker Mayfield had a bad game early on. He had like 2 fumbles and an interception before he scored 2 touchdowns. But the Panthers probably win maybe 1 or 2 more games than I suspect. I have them as a 5-win team. and there was the 58-yard field goal kick. My biggest takeaway from the Browns-49ers game is that I actually quite like Justin Fields on the Bears. Matt Eberflus, I think, had a way better game than Matt Nagy had all of last year. I know that last year the Bears performed well against the Niners again, but Justin Fields kind of hides his offensive line's weaknesses. Their biggest weakness is pass pro, and Justin Fields is an elusive quarterback who can get out of the pocket and stretch the field. I'm afraid that the wide receivers later in the year aren't going to, do what they did. The wide receivers played above their standards, per se. But I think that the Bears, instead of being the worst team in the league, I think they're around maybe maybe a bottom 10 team at highest, probably a 5 to 6 win team. I think they improved from what people thought they were going to do, and I think that the 49ers disappointed heavily. Trey Lance wasn't ready. I know that the field conditions were horrendous, but he didn't look ready. He threw an interception as well. I would give it around 4 to 5 games before I jump in and say that Jimmy G needs to take over. I'd like to see him in better field conditions, playing in a better game. The pocket was clean a lot of the game, but the throws and timing, this is technically his, I think, third game starting. So just give him time, let him have a few more games starting, and then don't overreact. I know you lost a game to Bears fans. I know you lost a game to a team you should have won to, but give it a few more games. We'll see what happens. I actually quite like where the Steelers are at now rather than in the offseason. They played a very good game against a team that just went to the Super Bowl, and the Steelers receivers played well. Chase Claypool had his a redemption game. George Pickens, I know everybody loves George Pickens, didn't get that as much. The line is still an issue, and also Najee Harris did go down with an injury, but it looks like he'll be fine. But Pat Freiermuth is really my takeaway from the Steelers is that Pat Freiermuth is really where this offense likes to target with Mitch Trubisky. But Mitch Trubisky has to not only keep his job, but play well enough to where Kenny Pickett cannot be the starter. But yes, they played a good game, and yes, the Steelers' defense is very good, but this offense needs to keep on moving. It stalled out a lot later in the game, so they'll have to hopefully get the offense moving, even though the offensive line is really bad. That's where Najee Harris comes into play. Now for the Bengals, the biggest, obviously everybody's takeaway is that Joe Burrow is looking rough and is having that Super Bowl slump, Super Bowl hangover, whatever you call it, or whatever you want to call it. And also T. Higgins, his second favorite target, did go out with a concussion. Hopefully he'll be back soon. The Bengals' offensive line didn't even look like it was improving. They let up the most sacks of the week. So, I don't know. They just have to gel together better. But I think the Bengals still are the most talented team in the AFC North. But do they win the AFC North? Maybe not. But I still think they do make the playoffs. They're just way too good not to. This was probably the best, but also this was probably the best played game and the highest scoring game, or obviously the highest scoring game of the week. I have a lot of takeaways from this game. First off, let's start with the Eagles. The Eagles are probably the guaranteed, after Dak Prescott's injury, they're probably the guaranteed leader of the AFC, or the NFC East. They looked great this game. Jalen Hurts played very well. A.J. Brown is looking like a true wide receiver one. He's his favorite target. I know Devontae Smith had 4 targets, 0 catches. I'm not worried. He's a Heisman. His route running is literally insane. The rushing game last year was #1, and they have Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts obviously through the ground, Boston Scott. They've got a good offense, and plus they have the best offensive line in the league. They let up very little pressure, or very little meaningful pressure in this game, other than Aiden Hutchinson, and that's where I get into the Lions. Aiden Hutchinson looks like a great pick at #2. Jared Goff kind of holds you back a little. He visually does hold you back. I think that later in the game they were in it, but DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams are once again a really good backfield duo. As you saw, he missed that what could have been seen as an open pass. The defense is looking improved. I like Aiden Hutchinson, Jeff Okuda. Anyways, onto the next. This game confirmed to me that I think that Davis Mills is going to be the starter in Houston. Regardless of what pick they have, I don't think that they should use a pick on a quarterback. I do think that they should stick with Davis Mills. He looks like he can read 1, 2, 3, stepping into throws. As you saw, he just took that hit and completed the throw. I like Davis Mills. He has a good connection with Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, Brevin Jordan. OJ Howard had 2 touchdowns. The offensive line looked improved. Kenyon Green played very well in his first debut. They got Laramie Tunsil. They have some good building blocks, but I'm afraid that they're going to have games where they're obviously going to lose. They're going to play against a team that has a powerhouse offense, but they're going to somehow fight their way through and win some games, and people are going to think that this is going to be a contending team in the AFC South. I don't think it's this year. I think potentially if they actually make some free agent moves, they could have a chance next year at being, because the AFC South is very open. I don't think the Colts are the defined number 1. I don't think the Jaguars will be either. So, what was I going to say? I want them to do what teams with franchise quarterbacks. If you think that Davis Mills is your franchise quarterback, build wide receivers around him, keep on improving the offensive line, get him a true RB1. If you think Dameon Pierce is that, then keep on feeding him targets. I really like how they played under Lovie Smith as well. I think he's probably going to stay as coach unless they lose every other game they play. For the Colts, they're making me question a lot whether an injury to this team just completely breaks their season. If Jonathan Taylor goes out, their season's a loss. If Michael Pittman Jr. goes out, they have no air attack. They really only have 3 impact players on offense. Disregarding the offensive line, obviously they're a top 10 offensive line. But it's Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, and Alec Pierce, maybe. And Matt Ryan, obviously, is your quarterback, but he can only do one thing, and that's throw the ball. He's not very mobile. So that just concerns me whether their offense is going to, or if their offense gets stalled, they're going to have 0 chance in this game if they have 2 players that just get shut down, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. They have no other options to go to. That just concerns me after this game. The biggest takeaway for the Dolphins-Patriots game is the Patriots. It's not really the Dolphins. I came into this year, or we all came into the year knowing that the Patriots did not have an offensive coordinator. And Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, and is Bill Belichick really calling the offense? I don't even know who is calling these offensive plays. I guess they're all in coordination, but none of those guys are good offensive coaches. Bill Belichick has always relied on an offensive coordinator and Tom Brady. Matt Patricia was a defensive coordinator, then went to a head coach, and Joe Judge had probably the worst offense in the league last year with the Giants. So no wonder why Mac Jones was struggling. He had an interception, fumble. No wonder why he was struggling. This isn't the same Patriots as last year. The defense, the secondary was very shaky. Patrick Mills cannot be your cornerback 1 going up against Tyreek Hill, even though he got bailed a few times because of Tua Tagovailoa. I have just some concerns about the Patriots. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. As you see, Tyreek Hill had to intercept that pass, way underthrown. Tua does concern me a little bit. I don't think he played up to the standard that the coaches wanted him to. We all saw the video of him missing Tyreek Hill, as there was a drop by him. Bad ball. It's decent. As long as the accuracy is there and they play and he makes his throws in the intermediate level, I think they could be fine. But they're not going to have a very vertical offense just because they are limited. If they want to make a quarterback splash next year, they probably should do that. The Commanders did way better than I thought. Even though I had them winning this game, Carson Wentz had 4 touchdowns in the air, 2 to Jahan Dotson, 1 to Terry McLaurin, 1 to Curtis Samuel. Jahan Dotson on paper right now, I guess, is the best rookie wide receiver, even though I think that Drake London and Garrett Wilson are more talented than him. Can't argue with 2 touchdowns, and he did bail him out on one of those touchdowns in the end zone. But Commanders, I think what I project a 6 to 7 win team. Carson Wentz is a bit inconsistent, but my bigger takeaway, other than the Commanders, they were favored in this game, or the Jaguars are actually favored in this game. My biggest takeaway is that the Jags sold Trevor Lawrence on multiple occasions, and I really hope that the team as a whole gets better, because I think Trevor Lawrence has what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. He's a 1 to 2 to 3 read, stays in the pocket, throws. Even though I saw in a lot of times in this game, he felt the pressure off the edge a lot because this defensive line is so good for the Commanders. Giants sneaked a win away from the Titans, even though a lot of people had the Giants upsetting them as their predictions. Saquon Barkley is back. He had 18 touches, 194 yards, and a touchdown, plus a 2-point conversion. He ran for around 9 yards per carry, something extremely high. His vision is the same. He's making cuts through holes. He's got that burst that we know Saquon for. Even though Daniel Jones looked like the same Daniel Jones, this team goes farther. I think this team goes farther than I think they will, especially because the Cowboys are in a weak position, and I think that they can compete with the Commanders. 7-win team at most after this game, but they kind of did win just basically purely on a missed field goal from Randy Bullock. The Titans, I think the Titans look as everybody expected, which was they're going to take a heavy downgrade. Harold Landry went out with an ACL before the season. King Henry is coming off of a Lisfranc, and he did not look as dominant as he used to. He got blown off the line on one play that I saw. And also, Robert Woods got 4 targets, maybe. The rookies are heavily involved. This offense is just it's just a lesser version of what it used to be back last year, 2 years ago. Just because Derrick Henry isn't there, AJ Brown is not there, Corey Davis left last year. They're probably a 7, as they're probably on the same level as the Giants, to be honest. The Chiefs did not skip a beat. Just because Tyreek Hill left doesn't mean that the offense still isn't as dynamic, as downfield, as fast, as mobile, or as elusive. This is a great team. This is going to be, as you see there, just barely missed that pass to Mecole Hardman. I liked how they're moving around their pieces and how guys like MVS and Mecole Hardman are taking over the roles. And Travis Kelce, obviously, still the best tight end in the league, as I said earlier. The Chiefs just didn't skip a beat. They look the same, and the Cardinals look shaky. I know this is one of the most powerful offenses possibly of all time, but the Cardinals are what everybody suspects they are. They're not that great of a team. They have a capped ceiling. DeAndre Hopkins hopefully will come back as fast as the Chargers looked like the Chargers. Austin Eckler got involved heavily. Mike Williams did not. Must have slept with Justin Herbert's girlfriend, to be honest, because he's on my fantasy team and he sold me. But Keenan Allen got involved. This is a deadly vertical offense with Justin Herbert, who is probably obviously a top 5 quarterback now, as we saw Joe Burrow have 5 or 4 interceptions. Justin Herbert would never personally. But the Raiders look like the worst team right now in the AFC West. Derek Carr had multiple interceptions. He had 3 of them. The defense the secondary looked a lot better than I thought it would, because Nate Hobbs is him. I love Nate Hobbs in the slot. But I think Asante Samuel was the breakout star of this game, and he's getting a lot more, or he was on Devontae Adams for a lot of the game because J.C. Jackson is out with an injury. So that's really good for Asante Samuel. This Chargers team is going to win a lot of games. The Raiders, I think, are going to lose a lot more games. Man, did the Packers not look good this game. Even though they had some good plays, like, for example, this Aaron Jones 40-yard run, and they also had an A.J. Dillon touchdown in this game. Wow, they did not look good. In the air, the Packers were horrendous. They had, Christian Watson had multiple drops. He had a humongous drop, an almost 70-yard touchdown in his hands, and he dropped it. That was my biggest concern, is that he would be like a Marquez Valdes-Scantling. What was his biggest problem was dropping the ball. But I think this offense still improves. I don't think that they're better than the Vikings right now, as we saw in the game. Give it some time. They probably need to trade for a wide receiver one, hopefully. Devontae Adams, him leaving leaves a humongous hole to fill for the other wide receivers, and we saw in the game they clearly couldn't make up for it. But for the Vikings look absolutely excellent. Justin Jefferson is probably the wide receiver one as it stands, and Kirk Cousins is going to be as consistent as he is, but with more volume. Now he's probably going to get more touchdowns with the same probably amount of interceptions. They also have Adam Thielen. They have got Dalvin Cook. This offense, or the defense, looked great. I know that I said that the defense was around average. Za'Darius Smith boosts this team to that top tier level. The pass rush was great in the game versus the Packers. Shit on this one, but the Buccaneers look like the same team basically. The passing offense was there. Leonard Fournette is efficient. Powerful back. He played very well, as you see. He cut through that hole, went for a 20-yard run. The biggest takeaway is that the Cowboys are basically screwed. Even before Dak Prescott's injury, their offense was extremely stagnant. Couldn't really move the ball. They're feeling those offensive line departures, such as Travis Frederick, such as La'el Collins, Tyron Smith out. That's 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen that are gone. And they're definitely feeling that with Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard both not having great games. And also CeeDee Lamb got basically no targets in the game because either the pressure was there or he wasn't open. That's just my takeaway for the Cowboys. All right, finally, my last takeaway is for the Monday night game. The Seahawks not miraculously won the game, but as everybody said, the Broncos were a playoff team and the Seattle Seahawks were going to be a top 5 pick. Geno Smith played very efficiently, had 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 23 completions to 28 attempts. Russell Wilson was a bit scared. I thought he was too hesitant to go downfield, and the offense at times just couldn't move the ball. They were throwing it too short, and they have Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. They have 2 great downfield receivers, and I don't think they used them efficiently. Nathaniel Hackett decided to kick a 64-yard field goal instead of a 4th and 5 to a quarterback you pay $242 million to. So that's just the takeaway, even though I think they're going to be probably better than the Raiders after how the Raiders played the Chargers. But anyways, that's going to be the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you like this style of video of me going down every single team, let me know. Or do you want me to look at one game of the week and then do an analysis on all the points that went right, went wrong, stats and stuff? Just let me know what you want me to do throughout the season. Fantasy football, maybe. But let me know. I'll see you guys later.